what's your why? So she's like, what's your why? And I was like, I don't know. I was the son of a contractor. But for weeks and weeks, it's kind of bouncing around in my head like, what is my why? What is my why? What is my why? And then it was like, my dad became disabled. We didn't know anything. And it was a year after he died. We did our first accessible remodel, and I remember looking at it going, holy crap. This could have made my mom and dad's house safe. And so I couldn't help my dad. And that's why, that's all I'm working for.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Born to Tint podcast with the Miller Brothers. This is part 2 of Mark McGhie with Chermac Builders. We cut into more business side of everything. Check it out.
I never worked alone in my life until my GM died. I've always had office staff. And at that stage in my life, I was like, what are the chances I'm going to meet a guy that I would trust enough to make a signer on all my bank accounts like this guy was? Like, zero?
Pretty close.
Zero?
Pretty close.
Not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? Allie took care of my accounting for like 10 years. The previous 3 girls all tried to rip me off. So when Allie went back to work for church, I was like, I'll do it myself. Right? I joked with my wife when I got a new VoIP system with auto whatever they call auto answering or whatever. I told my wife, I said, would it be too unprofessional if I said, if I set up the recording so it said, thank you for calling Chermac Builders. If you've reached this message, we're either on the other line with another customer or we're temporarily out of the office. If you'd like to reach Mark in sales, press 1. If you'd like to reach Mark in accounting, press 2. If you'd like to reach Mark in human resources, press 3.
No, I think
if you'd like to reach Mark's secretary, Mark, press 4.
If you haven't done that yet, you should do it.
No, dude, my wife was like, some people might think it was. I said, dude, if I heard that, I would freaking laugh so hard.
Oh, yeah.
The people that would hear that would have a problem with it is probably not the customer.
Not
it's not your customer.
for me.
Yeah, it's not the right customer for you.
No, but you know what, dude? When you talk about that was a learning thing. And I have to assume you guys, your dad, I'm sure, imparted that on you. I'm in a network marketing group called Business International or Business Networking International, BNI. And it's networking. So every Tuesday, like 34, 35 business people get together every Tuesday and share referrals. That's what we do. The number of times I've looked at someone and said, what is your ideal client? And they can't answer the question. Or the number of times on a Tuesday morning people say, well, I'm looking for anyone you know. And I'm thinking, really? Anyone?
That hurts.
Do you want the biggest pain in the ass I know? Probably not, right? Because years ago, I was in my 40s when I had a thing happen with a potential client, and it caused me to stop and go, who is my ideal client? Right? I do much better with people who've chosen the lowest bid a couple times and got burned. I do a lot better with them, right? I do a lot better with people who value what it is I bring to the table, right? Years and years ago, people would call and they would say, first thing they say, are your estimates free? And I came up with an answer years ago. My answer is, no, they cost me money. They cost me money.
That's a good
Because what you're telling me right
answer
out of the
at all.
gate is that my time has no value. Zero value. That's what you're telling me, right? So my immediate feeling is you're probably not a good fit for me. You're probably not a good fit for me because I don't really sell price. I just don't. I don't sell price.
That's pretty much where the past couple of years. I mean, yes, my dad was already, that was definitely instilled, but now these past couple of years, it's kind of gotten to the point now that we have a sales team and everything. It's like the certain protocols, like even when people call in, it's like, all right, you guys answer the phone. Like, who do I have the pleasure of speaking with? If they don't want to give you their name, I'm completely okay with you guys getting off that phone call, like in a respectful manner.
Yeah, of course.
And just letting them know, like, well, I have to have this information. These are our company procedures and that I can do about it. If they're going to fight you that hard on it, do you really think that's someone you're going to want to try to sell when they come in here? Or we're going to want to send Josh out to make a sell?
Yeah.
Probably not.
No.
So we should just take it as, you
Well,
know
then
what?
you're vetting, right?
Yeah, no,
Yes.
I mean,
qualified.
dude, when I was 30, I wanted every job I looked at.
Yep.
And I was butthurt if I didn't get it. Everyone. By the time I was mid 40s, it was a disabled vet. It was a Marine guy. And the crazy thing was the way it played out before I left doing insurance repair work, because that's what I grew up doing with my dad was insurance repair work, fire, water damage, vehicle damage, structural failure, all that kind of stuff. And we were like on everybody's insurance, every insurance company's list and all that stuff. And that's what I grew up doing. Well, I got a call from AAA. And they said, hey, we got this client. He says every time he goes to brush his teeth and he turns on his sink, it smells like poop. So I'm thinking, really? I'm going to go burn time with some dude that's like whacked? So I go to this guy's house in a wheelchair. And I walk in. Dude, his house is buttoned up. Everything, it's like super clean, super tidy. We go back into his bathroom. He's telling me this. I lean down. I turn on the faucet. I smell poop. I was like, what the freak is that? I was just like, Roo. So I said, do you mind if I like take your under sink apart? He's like, no. So I took his under sink apart. And when I got the P-trap out, I looked at it and it was like coated in like this black sludge. And I was like, I sniffed it. I was like, what the freak? So I asked him, hey, give me some paper towels. You have some soap, blah, 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 blah. I cleaned all that up. I did the tailpiece, cleaned that all up, put it all back together, turned it on, gone. You don't forget that. I never forgot that because I'd never, ever experienced it. 10 years later, I get a call. It's this guy. I knew his name. I remembered it, right? He says, yeah, I'm a disabled vet. I've got this grant, blah, 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 blah. And I said, well, I know you. And he goes, well, I don't know you. I said, oh, no, I've been at your house. He goes, I don't think so. I said, no. When you walk through the front door, you've got a ramp that goes down to your main living level. He goes, yeah, I do. I said, you take a left, you go to your master bath. And when you go in, on the right is a sunken Roman tub and tile. He goes, yeah, you're right. So I go to the guy's house. Go through the whole process to do this VA grant. And he's like, dude, you're doing the job. You're doing the job, man. I can't get anybody to come out here. I can't get anybody to answer phone calls, return phone calls, blah, blah, blah. And here's what I'm thinking. Bro, if I had money for every time I heard what you're saying to me, I'd be wealthy. Yep. I said, well, look, dude, I appreciate that. But let's get through the estimate part of it. I go back. I draw the guy's bathroom out because it's critical in these VA jobs, right? You've got to have the 5-foot turnaround for a wheelchair and you got to have a shower that's this size and everything's got to work to pass with the VA at that time. Submit it to him, put my estimate together, send him the drawing first. I'm like, you good with this? This is what we talked about. No, perfect, cool. Dude, I so appreciate it. Send him the estimate. Crickets. So I was like, the number choked him. About 2 months later, there's an phone call on my answering machine. Yeah, this is Ron. I don't know if you remember me, but you gave me a number for, this work at my house, and I haven't done anything with it yet. If you want to call me back and maybe talk about some of your prices, some of them seem kind of outrageous. I'll still consider you. So I called him back. I said, well, what price seems outrageous? He goes, well, all of it, really. I mean, all of it, frankly. And, if you want to look at your numbers, I'll still consider it. Then I got the phone. I was freaking bent, right? I'm like, geez, what happened to, oh, dude, you're doing this job. Nobody comes out when they say they will. Nobody returns your phone calls. Nobody. And then I'm thinking, you think anybody drew your bathroom, bro? I know nobody did because nobody invests that much time.
Yep.
I'm still drawing on a freaking 50s drafting board with pencil. All right? It's time. And I thought to myself, what do I sell? And that was my moment. What do I sell? Well, I don't know. I sell the fact that we've been in business for 48 years. I sell the fact that I do show up. I sell the fact that I draw your bathroom to convey back to you what we talked about, and I know it's going to pass with the Veterans Administration. I sell. And so I looked at my numbers and I was like, okay, I might be a little bit high here or there. I made a couple of adjustments, and then I sent it back to him with an email that said, you know, Ron, I got to tell you, when I got off the phone with you, I was really offended, but it turned into a good thing because you made me stop and think about what it is I sell. And I don't sell price. And I sell all these things, right? Now, this dude is like super perfectionistic. His house is like, buttoned tight. I said, so it's no different than, could your employer find somebody to do what you do for them for less money? The answer is yes. Now, would they bring to the table what you bring to the table? That level of fastidiousness, that level of everything has its place, everything is right where it belongs. Would they bring that to the table? That's a variable. They may or may not, but you can always find somebody to do it for less. So never heard from him. Didn't hear anything. Crazy thing. Last year, the freaking dude calls me again. Out of the freaking blue. And he has a subsequent grant. He says, yeah, my name is such and such. I'm like thinking, bro, you may be buttoned up, but you have a horrible memory, bro, right? I said, Ron, I know you. He goes, well, how do you know me? I said, well, I gave you a bid on your last VA job. Oh, you did? I said, yeah, you remember? My prices were outrageous. He goes, oh, yeah. I said, who wound up doing the job for you? So he tells me the name of a guy I know that does this work, right? And I said, well, really, bro, were you happy with the work? He goes, oh, yeah, it was okay. It was all right. I said, well, why don't you call him? Well, I did, but apparently he's got some kind of heart problem, and I don't know if he can do it. The guy could die. I don't even know what's going to happen. And in that moment, I thought, you're a freaking asshole, dude. And I said, well, listen, bro, my advice would be to have them do it, because if you thought my prices were outrageous back then, they're super outrageous now. And just pushed him away, dude. Yelp. I don't really advertise to speak of, right? So I'm reading a trade publication, and I'm reading about these nightmare stories of contractors who've gotten bad reviews on Angie's List or Yelp. And I was like, I should probably check, right? So I check Angie's List, and there's a review, and I was like, oh my God, I hope it isn't bad. I go, and it's like a raving review of this lady that we helped her little boy, right? Did some accessibility work for a little boy. So I go to Yelp, and it's like nothing, and it says, claim your business. So I was like, oh, okay. So I claimed the business, and I filled out all the information, and I uploaded some pictures of accessibility work. Dude, my phone started ringing like crazy. I can't possibly service this many people, but this is what I'm getting. Are your estimates free? I was like, no, they're not free. They cost me money. Now I want a bathroom remodel. How much? I was like, well, I don't know. I want a car. How much? Well, I guess it depends on the kind of car you want. I said, exactly. I do bathrooms that are $80,000. I do bathrooms that are $30,000, But I'm like, these are not good fits for me.
Yep.
You know what I mean? They're just not.
Oh, yeah.
And recognizing that, because I sink a lot of time into the numbers I run. So I try to carefully vet the people that I do business with, right? Now, there's another sales philosophy, which is everybody's worth a sales call. If you're a closer, if that's your deal, right? Everybody's worth putting in the ante. Because if a sales guy goes out, I used to listen to a guy for years, multi-millionaire, He sold his construction company, his remodeling company, and became a sales consultant, a multimillionaire. And I had a chance to meet him I went to a conference in San Mateo years ago, and I had listened to this guy's tapes. I had read his columns in this remodeling magazine for years, and I made some comment during the deal, and he was like, "Who said that?" I mean, there's like 300 remodelers there. And I was like, "I listen to your tape, you know?" So lunchtime, he goes, "Hey, I want you to sit with me." So here's what he says to me. He says, "Does everybody offer what you offer in your market? What makes you different?" And I was like, "Well, when I do a large job for somebody, the state says we warranty our work for a year, but my attitude is I'll warranty it as long as you live there for workmanship. And if we do our job right, I don't have to worry about coming back and fixing anything. And if something went bad in 2 years, I don't want somebody coming to your house and looking at something bad going, 'Hey, who did this job for you?' Because they want to know who not to call, right?" And then I said, I genuinely care about my customers. I really care about them. So he goes, "Do you close?" I was like, "Not really, man. I mean, I just don't. I don't go into that." And he says, "You're thinking of it as manipulation." He says, if you offer what you say you offer, are you doing someone a favor by not persuading them to buy from you? Or are you doing them a disservice? And I was like, there's probably truth in that, right? But there's so many different components to what I do, and I look at every one as a potential profit center, that I'm so anal about working the numbers, really working the numbers, as opposed to going in and quoting so high and working on closing numbers that are so high that I know I'll be good no matter what. Because there are guys that do that, right? Because he was telling me, look, the average window in a house is $500 is what it cost me. $500 to replace a window. Most houses have 2 big ones. Most houses have 2 small ones. The rest of them are average. So I go in, I count the windows, multiply it times 500, multiply that times 2. If that comes out to 10 grand, I just start scribbling numbers and this and that, and then I look at people and give them the odd cents close. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I'm gonna ask a favor. If I give you my best number today, will you give me a yes or no right now? You know, will you give me a yes or no right now? And when you're nodding your head, they say, "Sure will." Yeah, right? I mean, it's old school sales, right?
Yeah.
And then he goes, "I got a slot coming up. I could do your house for $9,987.16. So it looks like he's really cranked his numbers down, right?" And I'm just like, bro, I don't have that in me.
Yeah.
Right? Abby over the years has told me, offer the 10% discount. Some people want to feel like they're getting a discount. I'm like, if my goal is a net 10%, how can I offer them a 10% discount if I don't build it in? And if I build in the 10% to knock it off, I'm leading them to believe that I'm giving them a discount that I'm really not. It feels deceptive to me. I just can't do that. I can't do it. I'm not selling Levi 501s. Kohl's buys them for $12 or whatever. They retail them for $60. If they're 25% off, they're still making money, right? If I'm looking for a 10% net, then I got to beef it up and then make them feel like I'm giving them a discount. And she's like, "Dad, some people just want to feel like a good discount." I'm like, well, then I'm not the guy to buy from because I can't do it. If I give somebody a discount, it's a real discount, right? When I went out and looked at the stuff and did the stuff for your mom and dad, I'm not looking to turn a profit on your mom. There's no way. I've known you guys forever. I want to do what I can do to help your dad and keep it as cost effective for your mom as I can possibly do it. I make no money. I picked up some overhead dollars, but I'm not turning a profit on you guys. I'm not going to do it. I just did a job for my cousin. He would have probably crapped himself if I quoted him what I normally charge. right? But I can't do that. He's my cousin. You know what I mean? But it's different models for different people.
Oh yeah, that's the crazy thing. Is like all the different sales advice and stuff you get out there. Because you saying that just now reminded me of something I just seen the other day, and I actually shared it with both of these guys. Alex Hermosi is one of like the business guru type people that we've been following for a couple of years now. And one of his clips just came out, and it was a guy that came and did like a consultation with him, and he had basically in this video, he's like, "Yeah, this Alex told me that there's this guy that's got 75% close rate on $8,000 tickets." He's like, "You want to meet him?" I was like, "Yeah, I want to meet him." Like, so meet this guy. And like, my one question is like, all right, how are you getting 75% close rates on these high ticket items? It's like, well, every day I look at my schedule and see what calls I have, and I go through them and I requalify them. If it's not, I know this person's going to buy, I cancel their call. And two things are going to happen. They're either going to call me and say, "Hey, why'd you cancel this?" Which now they're requalifying themselves that they want to do it.
Right.
Or number two, they never call back, and I know they weren't that serious. And it's like, there's so many different strategies out there that can be
100%. You know what's funny? When I walked out of the insurance, when you guys were young, your dad had a loss. And I worked with him and told him how to get all the stuff that he wanted covered because they were saying no to this, to that, whatever. And your dad was just like, "Dude, that was amazing." And my close ratio on fires was 80%. But I learned something. I was uber thorough, because when you walk into somebody's house that's burnt, dude, it's hard to know exactly what the hell was there, right? Really hard. You got to like go over into corners of a room where it was really burnt and get down low to see, did they have wallpaper? Did they have paneling? Did they have this? Did they have that? You're looking in areas where the fire didn't get or whatever. So I was like super thorough. Then before I submitted my bid to the insurance company, because I would be called out by the insurance company. Typically they call out 3 contractors. You don't meet the homeowner. You go out to this job and you walk through and you do this takeoff room by room, item by item, then the structure, electrical, whatever. Before I would submit it, I would reach out to the homeowner and say, "Hey, I'd like to meet you at your house. I've got my bid put together. I just want to go through and make sure I've got everything in there that was in your house." And I go through the house, item by item, room by room. And they'd be like, "Oh no, that was like a Swarovski crystal chandelier there." I'd be like, "Oh, perfect." Go through the whole house. "Oh no, we had Newport brass faucets," or whatever it was. Then I go back and I'd tweak my numbers. Well, then I'd submit my numbers, and I get a call from the adjuster saying, "They want you to do the job, but you're like 20% high over the other contractors." And I said, "Well, what do they have for the chandelier in the dining room?" "Well, they got like $265. I said, "It's Swarovski crystal. It's $4,000. Oh, we'll get them to adjust that." "Hey, what do you got for the faucets?" $135. I said, "They're Newport brass are $650 a piece to buy," right? Now what happens is, by the time they make all of their adjustments, I'm only 2 or 3% high. I'll take the job for 2 or 3%. I'll take it. And what happened was, I started getting adjusters who were like, "You got to stop talking. You got to stop talking to the homeowner." I'm like, "Why?" "Well, it's not fair to the other contractors." And I remember saying, are you the arbiter of fair? Or do you want closed files and happy customers? Is it fair that I'm more diligent and more thorough, that I spend more time than the other contractors? And it just reached this point where I was like, you know what? I'm tired of this. I'm sick of this. I don't want to do it anymore, right? I go out and I start out representing the insurance company. Over the years, the number of times a contractor got kicked off a job and I got called to go finish it. So you're walking into a hostile environment where they're super pissed off with the insurance company, the contractor, and then I go in there and finish the job and they're happy and they're they're back being happy with their insurance company. But every time somebody new would come along that's doing something for a nickel a foot less or whatever, all of a sudden they're the new favorite contractor of all the adjusters. And I just reached a point where I was like, nah, man, I'm done with this. Here's what I learned. I don't have to be the low bid to get the job. I don't have to be.
Oh, 100%.
I have to be professional, more professional. Dude, I just sent an estimate off to a vet in Boulder City. 7 pages of typing, notes about everything. I'm a note guy. I'm going to paint your stucco to blend. That's this price. Here's what's important for you to know. I'm probably matching up to paint that's already oxidized, which means that my paint formula will be different from what the original was that's on your house. And over time, what can happen is my paint will oxidize to a different color from the rest of your house. The only way I can guarantee that there will never be a difference is if I paint wall to wall, because it depends upon how much sun and weather exposure any given elevation has, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's just the reality. With it, I sent her 11 pages of product information. I have a Toto bidet toilet seat, this one included in my bid. You can pick from any of these 5 faucets. You can get whatever you want, and there's an allowance in my bid in the notes, but here are 5 examples of faucets and shower valves that match each other in chrome. This is my tile allowances. Here's a photograph of how we attach a hand shower to a grab bar to act as a slide bar. Here's all this stuff. And here's what I know. There's not another freaking guy that will do that. There's just not. There's not. They will not invest that time, right? Plus, I drew her bathroom. Plus, I had already sent that drawing to the VA. Hey, will this pass? Will this fly when it gets to the regional office in Minneapolis? Will they approve this, right? And what I get back is, you're our guy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to be the little bit.
Yeah, no, if you provide enough value.
But that's what it is, right? It's what do people value? Because that's really what you're looking at, right? What you're looking at is people who value what you do, what your business provides, right? Because I think back, man, I remember being young and every freaking job, dude. I wanted every job, you know? And then you start to realize, I made a horrible mistake. We did a job for, my GM had sold this job to a famous old Hollywood producer. He did like all of the Spanky and Our Gang movies, all of the Errol Flynn movies, all of the freaking Elvis movies. He was the original guy that had the Flintstones, sold that to Hanna-Barbera. This dude was like super connected in Hollywood. Well, he had married a woman much younger than him who had been a 1955 Playmate in Playboy. She missed an important memo, which was, you were a 1955 Playmate. You ain't shit today, okay? Your husband is still widely respected, but you're only respected because you're married to him. He was a member of the Academy. So he was one of the guys that votes on who gets the Oscars or whatever. So we're doing this job for her, and she would treat our guys really poorly. That wasn't my job. It was my GM's job. Well, she called the office one day. My GM was out on an appointment, and she's freaking livid. And I was like, I could let him go deal with it, but you know what? Let me go down, because George is a really good guy, and he's a good client. Let me go down and get her mellow. I get down there, and this older carpenter that was working for us tells me that she walked out in the street and picked up a cigarette butt. She said, I said no smoking on our property. And she flicked it in his face. And he said to her, I don't smoke, ma'am. And when he told me that, I was like, ooh. So I walked in, and she starts, dude, just going off. And I'm looking at her, and as I'm looking at her and I'm listening, in my head, I'm like going, keep cool, keep cool, don't go off, remain professional, right? And then she goes, what are you looking at? What are you doing? I said, actually, I'm trying not to get upset. And she walked right up into my freaking face, dude. And she was like, you're here for one reason and one reason only. I've got the gold and you want the gold. Wow. And I was like, I said, Corinne, while I appreciate the fact that you as the homeowner have the right to hire whomever you choose to do work at your house, I hope you equally appreciate that I, as the owner of this company, have the right to work for whomever I choose, and that we will not be working with you anymore. And bro, she went freaking nuts. And it was really hard to finish, because now we have to go to the servants' entrance and all this bullshit. But it was like, in my head, I was like, I should have saved that for the end. I should have saved that for the next call to go work and say, you know what? I don't think we're a good fit for you, right? I mean, people don't like to hear that. People don't want to hear that you don't want to work for them.
Yep.
So my normal mode is, if I get somebody and they're like, I can just tell they're not going to be a good fit for me, because I'll ask people questions. I'll spend 15 minutes on the phone with them. And really what I'm doing is qualifying them.
Yep.
Are you a good fit for me, right? Because, dude, if I'm talking about a sizable job, it's hours of work for me to work those numbers, right? And if I'm dealing with a disabled person, I'll be like, do you mind if I ask you some personal questions? How old are you? How much do you weigh? Right? How tall are you? Are you able to go to the bathroom by yourself? Do you use a catheter? Do you require digital? Do you require physical stimulation to take a crap? Right? Are you all these questions? Because I want to know where you are. If they're like, are you going to come out and look at this or not? In my head, I'm like, you're not a good fit for me. Because if I can't get you to tell me where you are physically, then I can't design the best job for what your needs are going to be, not just here, but in the future. And then I'll say, well, right now I'm, you coming out to look at the job? I'll be like, well, right now I'm booked out a ways. And they're like, well, how long? And I don't say this, but in my head, it's like about November 12th, right? I'll push the time so far out that they'll be like, well, I can't wait that long. I'm like, well, look, I totally get it. I wish you luck with your project. I hope it all works out for you. But in my head, I'm like, I'm not going to come out and talk to you. I don't need to. It's a waste of my time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I think when you're new in business, you take anything. But then if you're smart, you'll pick a lane. You pick a lane. What is our profit center? What works for us? Where do we make, what is the least amount of time we invest for the amount of profit we generate? And that becomes the lane that you try to focus on. You know what I mean? And then you become a profitable business.
Yeah.
But
that's great advice, I think, for any small business owner. That's one thing
100%.
we've been like really working on the last couple of years is like qualifying leads better and raising our prices to where they should be. Because unfortunately, for the longest time, we did lead with the discount model.
Mm-hmm.
And I get why, especially when you're smaller early on, you got to pay payroll.
100%.
So it's like you got anything that comes through the door, you just, all right, I'm gonna make it happen.
Oh,
But luckily, we're to the point now where we have such a good reputation and we have so many leads coming in that it's like, okay, we know what value we're providing. And if that's not what you're looking for, there's somebody that'll take care of you.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Dude, there's always somebody. I tell people, I was on a podcast recently and I was like, look, the industry I come from, this is how broad it is. A guy in a pickup with his dog and $100 million window company.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very, very, very broad spectrum, right? There's all. My father-in-law, the girl's grandfather, had a restaurant, and he always had out-of-work construction guys in his bar, and The work they did was horrendous. Horrendous. And it was, I remember telling him, he's like, well, that's a lot of money. I said, Pop, if you ask enough people, you'll find someone who will tell you what you want to hear. But then you'll get what you got, right? Kitchens have quarry tile because they use hoses to wash the floor down every night. And so he called me up one day and he's like, hey, could you come down and look at this tile repair work that was done in my kitchen? And I said, well, what's wrong with it? He says, the tiles just keep moving. So I go down and I look, and he puts his foot on it, and the tile moves in the floor. And I said, well, how long ago did they fix it? And he goes, like a week. And I was like, so I pulled the tile up. They had used wall mastic instead of thin set. It will never dry because it's getting washed down every night. You know what I mean? And I was just like, this is what you get.
Yeah, cheap now is expensive later.
I mean, if you want somebody who'll tint your car for $15 or $20, just keep asking. You'll find someone that will say, hey, I'll do it. Now, what you get is not going to be what you is not going to be a problem.
Yep.
It's just not.
100%. Yeah.
It's crazy. Proud of you guys though, dude, man. You guys are killing it. Michelle works with you guys, yeah?
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
She does my numbers.
Let me tell you something. Super, super crazy cool that you guys put it all together as family, because that's a whole nother difficult thing. That's a difficult thing. Very difficult.
Yes, it is.
You don't say.
No, just saying. No, it is.
Yeah.
It's a difficult thing. I worked with, dude, when I took over the company, there was only one person in the company younger than me, and it was a laborer. And I just did not get the same level of respect my dad did. I just didn't. My uncle had been with the company for 23 years. 23 years. And he would like battle me, constantly battle me. We've always done it this way. I said, I get it. I get it. That's how we always did it. But this is how we're going to do it now, right? And then I would say, look, I'm asking you to do this for me. If you won't do what I ask you to do, you'll force me to find someone who will. This is a guy who was, number one, my uncle. Number two, he had been my supervisor growing up. And then I went past him and became management. And then I'm running the show. And so this is a guy that is 23 years in the company, 4 weeks a year paid vacation, 8 paid holidays, full health insurance, company vehicle, salaried, makes $200 a week more than I make, and never available for overtime. And we had all these salaried family members, which was a bunch, dude, because when we're slow, we are bleeding cash. And I sold a bunch of work. And he comes and I was actually drawing the plans for a big fire job. And so I'm going to need all hands on deck because I got a bunch of fires, and we're going to have to man up and get this work done. And he comes into my office, I'm drawing, he's standing in front of my drafting board, and he says, I'm going to be on vacation for 2 weeks coming up here. You got to do what I do. Every January, you set your vacation schedule, and when the time comes, you just got to go. You just got to go. And I looked at him and I said, do you know how you're able to do that? And he looked at me and he goes, well, what do you mean? I said, well, where am I when you put that first bite of Wheaties to your mouth in the morning? He goes, well, you're at the shop. I said, that's right. I said, where am I when I put that first bite of dinner to your mouth at night? He's an early eater, like 5 o'clock guy, you know. He says, well, you're at the shop. I said, that's right. I said, that's how you could do that. That's how you could do that, because I'm here. I said, let me tell you how vacation works for Mark. It's like porridge for Goldilocks. Can't go if it's too hot. Can't go if it's too cold. I can only go if it's just right. Right? I said, bro, if you go on vacation after I've paid you for a month and a half to run errands and read trade publications while we were slow, if you leave when I need you now, be a good idea to file for unemployment so it's ready for you when you get off vacation. He walked out of my office, and as he passed my GM, he goes, well, Mark's putting me out to pasture. And I thought to myself, no, bro. No, you're putting yourself out to pasture. I gave you a choice. I just paid you for a month and a half to do little nothings. And now I need you. And you're telling me I ain't gonna be here. And I look at that and I'm like, that's not equitable. That's not equitable for me. So that's how he left. And it was hard to do, I'll tell you, because he was my uncle. You know what I mean? But it's not an easy task. My brothers and sister was hard, dude. It was hard. But I remember telling my mom one time, I said, it doesn't matter what I do. It's bad. It's all bad. Every scenario is bad. I paid a company $27,000 to come and consult and try to help me figure out how to make everything work with all the family members we had. And I told my mom, if we stay the course we're on right now, we're going to go bankrupt. We're going to go bankrupt. We got too much. We're too overhead heavy. And if I do everything that the consulting company said, I'm going to be like the asshole that is working everybody to death, tying their compensation to productivity. You know what I mean? I said, if my uncle was around, I was like, if I cut loose the dead weight, I'm going to be the greedy one that wants it all for himself. I was like, it just doesn't matter what I do. I'm screwed. And at the end of the day, it was what it was. As soon as I tied my oldest brother's money to compensate to profitability, quit the next day. And I was just like wild, because my dad told me night before he died, don't plan on making a place for your older brother because he won't be here. And I just was like, I don't see that at you. But he was right. And I think in all fairness, I think my older brother probably felt like he should have been the person, because dude, he's like 10 years older than me. I think he felt like he probably should have been in my position as opposed to me, for example. And he went out and started his own company, but he went BK because he just didn't get the numbers. I don't care what business you're in. Business is numbers, and every different business has its own metrics, whatever it is, restaurant, whatever, right? But the metrics are, if you look at the metrics, that give you a pretty good idea of where you need to be when you look at a P&L. And if something's really out of line, you're going to be in trouble. You know what I mean? But I just don't think he understood that, because at one point I was being nice. It was when the girl's grandfather died. He stopped by to pay respects to my wife, and so I was like, hey, how's business, man? How's it going? He's like, haven't lost a job yet. And in my head, I thought, bro. You think it's because you're that good? And it's probably because you're that cheap.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I said, you got any money put away? He goes, nope, I'm putting all the money in the business. I said, bro, if you keep getting every single job you bid, you're probably not going to get any money put away. And if you don't have that money put away, dude, I'm going to go back and fix a shower that we did 4 years ago. And there's something wrong with the pan. So we were looking at it. Same couple I told you, they're like, you're the best thing that ever happened to us. Same couple. And I looked at him like, there's something wrong with that pan. We got to replace the pan. And so one of my guys comes in at the end of the day and he's like, how long do you warranty a shower pan for? I said, well, we did it like 4 or 5 years ago. I said, how long should a shower pan last? And he goes, I said, 4 or 5 years? He goes, well, no. I said, no, probably longer, right? Done properly, right? Is it going to cost me money? Yeah, it's going to cost me money. The homeowner thinks he's going to pay me. I was like, no, Dwayne, you're not paying me for this. This is, but right is right and wrong is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I can't look at this old man. Even knowing he thinks he's going to pay me, I just could not do that, dude. I could not do that to him. You know what I mean? He trusts me. And what's your integrity worth?
Yeah.
What is your trust worth?
Well, and how do you value that? Like,
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but Josh, you know most people. It's just not like that.
yeah.
Right? Dude, in my industry, if people roll up to like Spanish Trails, as they go through the gate, the price goes up.
I get that question all
But
the time.
it's true. Well, and I mean, if you go to a high-end community, they're expecting that you're going to do that because that's what a lot of unethical companies do, right? And I tell people, look, I know my numbers, and my markup doesn't change because I'm here,
Yep.
right? My markup is my markup because that's what I need to make to be profitable.
Yeah.
That's it.
Luckily for us, it's weird because those homes, we don't have to raise our rates at all. They naturally, those projects are just bigger because the home's bigger and
Yeah.
our pricing is a square footage of the glass.
Right.
So if the home has 3 times the glass of a normal home, it's going to be more anyways.
Yeah, but bro, how many companies do you think roll up there and the cost per square foot goes up by 3 times based on the square footage of the glass
Yeah.
and an extra 5 Gs? I would submit that probably happens a lot
Oh yeah.
because the mentality is they got money. I can get an extra $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, whatever it is, right? And dude, I've been lucky in my career to have clients that I have for like 30 years, 20 years. I had a guy at there's that neighborhood at Sand Hill and Flamingo where Lonnie Hammergren used to live, which is like this crazy house where he bought all these houses and it's got like Egyptian boats and space capsules and shit that you can see from Sand Hill. It's just bizarre, but it's this really nice little neighborhood right there. Forest Crest and all these different streets, but big houses, big lots built in the late 60s, early 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Had a client there. I went back and looked. From the time I did my first job for him in 97, I did work at his house every year until he died. Every year. I did hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of work on this guy's house. Twice were times where he had a major water leak and his house subsided.
Ooh.
The foundation dropped and we jacked it up and pinned it and repaired all of that. But I did bathrooms, floor. I did his floors in his house 3 times over 20 years.
Oh, wow.
I remember telling my wife one time, I said, sometimes I think he just wants his house under construction. It's wild. But he said to me one time, I don't have planes. He was a ex-test pilot for the Air Force. Then he was a commercial pilot. Then he was a financial tax guy and wound up owning like a CPA company. Very wealthy guy. But he said to me, I don't have planes. I don't have boats. I don't drive crazy cars. I really love my house though. I love keeping my house updated. And I was like, cool. This is a guy who would call me out to do a small project. And then we get there and he's like, well, what do you think it cost if we did my bathroom? What do you think it cost if we did this? What if we put some cabinets in the laundry room area? What if we, and a job that maybe started at 20 grand turns into 60 grand. And I haven't written anything. I have no contract. I give him a bill and he writes me a check. That's a crazy amount of trust. And I always looked at it like this. I never want to abuse that trust.
100%.
And I have had probably 4 or 5 clients just like that over the years, which they don't even ask me for a price. They just say, do this, and I give them a bill. But I take that super serious, right? If I think my guys took too long to do a particular thing, I will drop that back to what I think it should have been, right? Because it's a crazy amount of trust to just give somebody carte blanche in your home,
Yeah.
right? On stuff that's not cheap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it all comes back to integrity.
Yeah. Well, that's why you've been around as long as you have, huh?
Dude.
I mean, if people trust you, they're going to keep coming back. It's one of the things we learned from our dad. It was like,
100%.
take care of people no matter what, and they'll take care of you.
I remember my dad saying to me, again, like one of the Jerry Maguire moments, he said, if you get into a job and you find that you've underbid it, don't cut corners. Because if you cut corners, you'll prostitute the integrity of the company. And if you do it once, you'll do it again. And what you'll do is you'll go out of business. Because word will get around that you cut corners, that you don't operate well. And sooner or later, you'll go out of business. And he says, and when you have to eat money, when you got to reach into your pocket and pay to make something right, you won't make that mistake again.
No, definitely not.
And dude, I've been there. Believe me. I did a job a couple years back in Anthem. And the lady had a particular laminate flooring. And she says, we want to do the same flooring here. And I was like, well, how old is it? She's like, it's like 6 years, but I'm told it's still available. So I was like, okay. So I reached out to my flooring sub. And I said, is this product still available? And they said, yeah, it is. So I was like, okay. So I said to the lady, I said to her verbally, it may be the areas where the sun comes through your windows and hits the floor, it may not be exactly the same, but the product is still available. Did I note that there could be a difference? No, I didn't. So when we put the flooring in, the product was still available, but it had gone from being water resistant to waterproof. And in that formulation, her floor had a sheen. The new floor did not. And bro, she was not happy. So we talked about, okay, there's a product we can apply that will give it a sheen. And if we do the whole floor, it'll all be the same. But you'll probably have to do it again every so many years. Not happy. So I go through all of my notes, all of my emails. Dude, I get 10,000 emails. I keep emails forever on projects, right? And my texts. I can see what I said, what I didn't, whatever. I go through everything. Nowhere did I note there could be a difference. So now I'm like, okay, if I were her, what would I want?
Floor replaced.
I'd want the floor to be the same.
Yep.
So cost me $4,000. My cost, 4 Gs to do the floor and replace and paint all the baseboards to make it all match. And I step back and go, I feel a little old to be making that error. Because it's a costly error, man.
Yeah.
If I look at $4,000, I go, okay, if I didn't spend that $4,000, where would it be? Well, it'd be on the net profit line. So what did that really cost me? If my profit target is a 10% net, then $4,000 means I just did $40,000 worth of work for nothing. That's what it cost me, not $4,000, right? But it's still the right thing to do.
Yep.
Right. And And I look at that and go, okay, I don't think I wouldn't go so far as to say there's nobody that does that, but I think there are very few contractors that do that. I just think there are very few.
Well, that's the majority of them that are gone in 5 years.
Well, it's funny when I had these hats made, right, the company turned 50 years old. My mom was still living at our house, and I came home and I showed my mom. I was like, "Look at that, man!" I said, 50 years, and my mom was like, "Oh my God, it's so weird." I said, "Mom, they're issuing contractors licenses in the 80,000s. As our contractor's license is 9401. There's generally about 16,000 contractors in the state of Nevada. So if I take the 80,000s and I subtract 16,000, that gives me how many contractors have been around since. And then I deduct 9,401 from that number. We've outlasted like 60,000 contractors in the state. She's like, "That's so weird." I said, "You know what's even more weird?" She goes, "What's that?" I said, "I've owned the company for 20 years and I still feel like I work for my mom and dad." Because that's how I make decisions. Yeah. You know what I mean? But that's what will keep you guys in business.
All right, we're gonna have to do this again. We're gonna have to cut it right here. But
run it up, bro.
I could probably go for 2 more hours with you.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, I've actually got stuff scheduled for the second half of the day. Otherwise, I'd hang
It's
out
all good,
longer.
bro.
What do you have going on right now? You want to promote or anything? Do you have social media out there? What are you doing on there?
Ob pushes stuff out there for us. I mean, it's just Ob. You know what I mean? I really don't advertise per se. I mean, the only thing, even in the network marketing group that I'm in, the only thing I ask for every day or every week is accessibility work, right? Because it's not really discretionary spending, right? I tell people, pre-stroke today, you don't need me. Post-stroke tomorrow, you're probably not getting in your house. You're definitely not getting in your shower or your tub or whatever. And so virtually all of my business is referral based. It's kind of weird because when you're in this space, right, it's like anything else, right? I would imagine that most of the car sales companies, the big ones in town, know who you are. I would think.
Oh, dealerships? No, they don't like us. Or well, they're not.
But there's people who know who you are. There are businesses that know who you are.
The sales guys will push work towards us because they don't want to go to their in-house because they don't want their client coming back to them going,
"I'm pissed off.
Awesome. Thanks for the tint job. What's all this all over the place?"
Yeah.
No. So
but the point I'm making is that when you're in a given industry, right, you develop a reputation. People know who you are. So if you look at the disabled community, it's like a really freaking small community.
Yeah.
And I get leads from there's a
I'm sure it's similar to us. We go into a neighborhood and all the neighbors end up having us come in. So if you're going into like a retirement community, putting in accessibility,
they're kind of weird there, right? I mean, like it's different, right? It's what they value, right? If people are on a super fixed income and they don't have a lot of discretionary spending, elderly people may want to do something, but they're like, I don't want to spend that much, right? But it's just wild. We've just been around so long that I have enough work flow come in to stay busy. And I've done veterans work for like freaking 30 years, right? So, we're going to be doing a job in Boulder City for a guy. I got to go out and pull a business license in Boulder City because Boulder City's a very cliquish. It's been that way forever.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not paying for a business license in Boulder City when I work there once every 3 or 4 or 5 years. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's mostly what I ask for. But last year I did a $200,000 kitchen. Super cool. Not the same as when I did a job for a girl 3 years ago. I mean, super cool. Great clients, perfect clients for me. They value what I bring to the table. I'm looking at another job for them right now. But 3 years ago, we did a job for a girl that had been sponge bathed for 14 years. And I gave her a shower. That's her shower, right? Because she couldn't get into a shower. And she was only bathed when she was in a hospital or traveling and there was an accessible shower. And she told me, I told my caregiver, go away. I'm not leaving until the hot water runs out. You know what I mean? Super rewarding. But I mean, we do whatever. I'm just out there to, end it with this. My current wife was always she's into like motivational speakers. And so she would like watch all these people on YouTube, and she watched Simon Sinek when it was the thing that was, what's your why?
Yep.
So she's like, what's your why? And I was like, I don't know. I was the son of a contractor. You know what I mean? But for weeks and weeks, it's kind of bouncing around in my head like, what is my why? What is my why? What is my why? And then it was like, when my dad became disabled, we didn't know anything. We didn't know anything. And my dad fell and got hurt. My mom got hurt. And it was a year after he died. We did our first accessible remodel, and I remember looking at it going, holy crap, dude. If I had known this, we could have made my mom and dad's house safe for them. You know what I mean? And so I couldn't help my dad. And that's all I market for. That's all I market for. I do all kinds of other stuff.
Yeah.
But that's it. That's what we do.
All right. Well, if you're out there and you're in Vegas and you need any type of accessibility work, highly recommend Mark. Chermac Builders. Known you since what? I was in third grade.
Dude.
Third grade. Kindergarten for me.
It's a minute.
And like you said earlier, you've helped our parents. And after our dad had a stroke, and there isn't anybody I would refer to out here by far other than you. So
Appreciate you guys.
no, thank you.
Hey, tell your mom and dad I said hey.
We will.
Absolutely.
Hey, how's your aunt?
Working our way through chemo.
Yeah.
Ups and downs
no
right now.
way, dude.
Yeah.
Really, Charisse?
Yeah.
For real?
Yeah.
What has she got?
Stage 4 breast cancer.
Yeah, it just came back. Oh, she's not doing so good. But my mom just got to go visit her. So did Nichelle.
Where's she at?
Pennsylvania.
Wow. Is she with Kayla?
Yeah.
Wow. I am sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Your Uncle Frank?
He's in Arizona.
Arizona.
He comes out here occasionally.
Yeah.
Doing good?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Those are two family members I know, bro.
Yeah.
I'll Charisse my prayers. Keeping your mom in prayers.
Appreciate it.
Gentlemen,
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning along. And until next time, guys. Have a good one.
Subscribe.
They say that's